Some relief from this Arctic air has finally arrived. Precipitation has ended and is not expected to return until the final retreat of the cold air occurs. This is going to be my final update as a result on this entire saga. So, some National Weather Service watches and warnings for you. A winter weather advisory is up for freezing rain for the Northern Oregon Coast Range and the Portland metro area, including the Oregon side of the lower Columbia River Basin. That continues until 10 a.m. on Friday morning in order to account for any lingering showers. An ice storm warning is also in effect for the western Columbia River Gorge, and a winter storm warning for the eastern Columbia River Gorge due to a wintry mix from Hood River eastward, also going through a similar time frame. Now onto the setup and what's going to finally draw out this cold air. So it's not really any one low pressure system, because the low pressure systems that are going to be affecting us are actually going to be intermingled with a larger low pressure system that draped that front over us today that is way off the coast and just looks to be meandering out there. There's going to be a lot of weaker low pressures that will come towards us, weaken and then slide up our coast. That will slowly bring warmer air towards the Portland metro area from south to north, and will finally kill that cold air pool and east wind gradient for good this time. But this is still a process. It's still going to take about 2 or 3 days for this to occur, and about two different of these weaker low pressure systems. Now, one thing to note with today is where were these colder temperatures located at? Because if you looked at the low temperature and the high temperature for the Portland airport, the low temperature was 34 degrees and the high temperature was 36. That goes in definitely the top 5 days for, or lowest differential between low temperature and high temperature. I don't remember off the top of my head if it tied the record or not. I'll put the results of my findings in the description of this video. But as you can see here, most of the temperatures that were 32 degrees or less were confined to mainly the eastern metro area east of I-205, along with the higher hills in the West Hills, the Chehalem Mountains, and also Bull Mountain and Cooper Mountain. Since this image was taken from the National Weather Service about, I'd say 10 p.m.-ish, based on when they posted this on their Facebook page, a few temperatures near Tualatin have fallen to at the freezing point, but not below 32 degrees. So I do not expect significant black ice in most areas in the lowlands, unless if you are east of I-205. So that was a pretty successful forecast, all things considered. So forecast notes, pretty simple tonight. East wind does continue Friday. I do expect the gusts to remain under 40 miles per hour, unless if you're in the immediate gorge mouth. So that pretty much just includes Troutdale, and that's it. So Portland Airport will finally get some relief, since that gorge air blows from east to west with a slight tilt towards the south. The gradient does go down Saturday during the daytime. It eventually goes down to near zero Sunday midday. It does not have to go to near zero to kill the easterly winds. It just has to get to low enough to the point where or it doesn't really become a big factor, and the southerly winds can overcome it, or a westerly wind can overcome it. I am expecting it to be a lot warmer and wetter next week, so a lot more relief, and I don't think a lot of us are going to be complaining about a wet 7-day forecast, considering what a lot of us just went through. So, timeline for Corvallis. I expect today into the afternoon tomorrow to be relatively dry. High temperatures today will be in the mid-40s, as I do not expect that cold winds to make it to Corvallis or areas further south. Probably won't even reach Salem. Saturday, I expect the high temperatures to actually keep climbing after this 3 o'clock typical high temperature or for January. Instead, I expect the high temperature to be around 47 degrees, and that occurs right around sunset. Low temperatures, both when you're watching this video and early on Saturday morning, will be around freezing, but a little bit above freezing. For the Portland area, pretty similar in terms of progression, with the exception that precipitation will be delayed because that is moving from south to north on Saturday. Low temperatures will remain a little bit above freezing, with the low when you're watching this should be around 36 degrees. High temperature today, I don't expect to get out of the 30s. This is the last day I expect for that to happen for the foreseeable future. As tomorrow, I expect high temperatures to be around 43 degrees. Now onto your 7-day forecast for Corvallis. Two more days where it's normal or below normal, and then pretty far above normal from Sunday and beyond, with high temperatures consistently in the mid-50s and a pretty wet week ahead. Lows are also in the mid to upper 40s. Interestingly, this could mean that despite the cold temperatures that happened in the southern Willamette Valley, if this verifies, it is entirely possible January still goes in as a near average month temperature-wise, or maybe even above average. We'll see how it turns out at the end of the month, though. Portland metro area, however, does get an extra day in the below average category. The average high for this time of year is 47 degrees. It finally goes above average on Monday, but does stay below 50 degrees until Tuesday, where it climbs into the mid-50s on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and the lows also climb into the mid-40s. It will be off and on rain throughout the week as a result. So as I always do in my final updates, I do like to take a look at how I did during this event. So let me cut over to that slide and I'll see you. Okay, so let's look at my forecast performance. So for the pre-event, which a lot of us may have already forgotten about it, this occurred Tuesday on the 10th of January. The event was good for 2/3 of the metro area, where I forecasted a trace to 3 inches of snow. However, the southern third of the metro area did bust by the low moving just 10 miles north of the anticipated path. So a little bit unfortunate with that, but the rest of the metro area, it was a pretty successful forecast, temperature-wise and precipitation-wise. Now, the temperatures of the blast. Schedule went well with temperatures, with it cooling down pretty quickly on Friday, being super cold on Saturday, and then slowly warming up Sunday, Monday, into Tuesday, breaking out on Wednesday to above freezing, though I went a little too quickly with how quick that warm up was. And that's with me adjusting for the models normally being too quick. So I did explain why that occurred in yesterday's video if you want to check that out. And in terms of the temperature forecast, in terms of my day before videos, I was pretty close on all days except for the video before Sunday and Monday, where I was about 3 degrees off, and on Wednesday, where I was about 9 degrees off instead. So moving on to the precipitation portion, and I'll start with the main event, which was Saturday's snow/sleet storm in Portland and ice/sleet storm in the Willamette Valley. The low path that I predicted was correct, almost spot on, but however, it was stronger than predicted, which, as I explained in, I believe it was Sunday's video, that moved the snow and sleet line further north of my predicted location. Instead of being in the southern metro area that would occur, that moved actually all the way up into Vancouver, which meant that most people, in terms of the precipitation, saw a majority sleet rather than majority snow, with just some snow packed on top of the sleet to give the illusion that it was a snowstorm. It was more of a sleet storm for most of us. I did correctly predict an ice storm in the southern and eastern valley. However, areas near the coast range, like Corvallis, did see more sleet than forecasted. Moisture content, while it was a little high for the Portland metro area, it was generally okay for the most part. Now, as a reminder, I did mention that a disclaimer in my snow forecast when I mentioned 4 to 9 inches. It was based on everything being snow, and to reveal the ratios that I used to forecast with that, I used a 12 to 1 to 15 to 1 snow to liquid ratio, which again means using the 12 to 1. If there was 12 inches of snow on the ground, and if it melted that instant, it would be equal to 1 inch of rain falling. That signifies anywhere from about touch over a quarter of an inch to 3/4 of an inch of liquid precipitation. Most areas in the Portland metro area saw between about 3/10 and 5/10 of an inch of precipitation, except in areas of the direct gorge outflow, which saw what I refer to as the east wind monster gobble a good chunk of that up. Sleet, for comparison, is only a 3 to 1 ratio. Timing was generally fine for this event in terms of precipitation patterns. Now for the remainder storms, the ice storm on Wednesday and the minor ice event on Thursday, Portland National Weather Service office reported between 0.55 of an inch and 0.7 of an inch of ice, which was in the upper half of my predicted ice totals, but was within my margin of error. Totals in the metro area generally range from about 0.4 of an inch to 0.8 of an inch, with the exception of the southern Willamette Valley that did receive that warming push, which I will group in with the Willamette Valley in this case, which saw between 0.3 and 0.5 of an inch widespread. This is on top of the inch of ice some people have received, especially in the Eugene area, where I have seen reports of up to 1.5 inches of ice, even higher than my high-end total. Thursday's event, I did correctly predict it'd be confined to mainly east of I-205, except isolated areas, though higher hills did experience that freezing rain because the cold air layer got deeper again, though there is still an inversion present, hence why this is freezing rain and not snow. 1/4 of an inch did appear to be the high end of the ice accumulations. Portland National Weather Service office saw another 0.2 of an inch. Throughout this entire event, in terms of the wind, I did pretty good on my wind forecast. So no forecast is perfect. I feel like overall this was a pretty good forecast, with my biggest mistake being incorrectly predicting how quick the warm-up would be for the main portion of the metro area. And then also, the other not so good thing was the sleet snow line being a little bit further north than what I predicted. So otherwise, it was a pretty good forecast considering how impressive this event was. And while I don't have a records slide to go over some of those records, this was the coldest 4-day stretch in terms of January high temperatures since at least 1957. It might be 1950, which shows how cold this air mass was. And again, that's for high temperatures, not combined high and low temperatures. And then also, I don't have confirmation on this yet, but so I'm going to need to take a look at this, and I'll have confirmation come my winter weather recap video. I believe we have now broken the record for most amount of time with 1 inch or more of snow on the ground at Portland while having a below median winter, which the median winter is 3.1 inches of snowfall, adjusting for any climate trends. So, of course, this assumes we get less than 1.5 inches of snow for the remainder of the winter, but if that does verify, that would be a pretty impressive record. So, again, I'll check on that again, and I'll give you an update on that come the winter weather recap video I will release in March. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in to all of my forecast videos. I really appreciate it. And also, if you've not read the description on the first couple of videos, I have been using an interim setup for this entire event as my computer decided it was a good idea to break not too long before this. So I do want to give a shout out to my parents for allowing me to use their computer for this event. It wasn't a perfect setup because I didn't have all the things that I wanted on here, that because I couldn't get all my files transferred over from my computer, but I still think that it turned out fine. So thank you for putting up with all the technical issues that I've had and the mix match of the graphics between my new graphics slides and my old graphics slides through this. And then again, thank you for tuning in to watching this. I believe this is the most amount of videos I have done in this short of a time span, and I do enjoy making these. But otherwise, I will just leave it at that. So until next event, if there is another event this winter, but if not, I will talk to you all in March for the winter weather recap. And otherwise, just stay safe out there. Please keep in mind that this is a slow thaw, so roads might still be treacherous. But please